This is the stuff dreams are made of. The final table of the Pokerstars Sunday Million. Hi everyone, Ace is up here for PokerNerve.com. Thanks for joining me again. It's been a long road this tournament, and now here we are at the final table. You would remember from last part, if I just skip back a hand here, we called a short stack jam. He only had about M2. Called with the A7. And we were fortunate enough to hang on. Been running pretty good this tournament, as you would expect, wading through such a massive field and getting to the final table. And we hung on there and beat the Queen 3. And here we were. Here I was, and I was pretty fired up despite being on virtually no sleep for a long period of time, which did lead to a couple of, well, let's just say bizarre occurrences leading up to this point. If you haven't watched all the other parts, check them out. Yeah, here we are now, and there is a mixed bag of players in contention here for close to 200,000 up top, I think it was. Most notable to me at the time was Svensk, a few spots to our left. I had him noted as a good reg. Otherwise, a pretty good table to work with, potentially a couple of loose cannons. But my strategy would be to try to put some pressure on these mostly recreational players who might be a little concerned about the pay jumps, and particularly try to leverage our stack when we can, because stacks are relatively short at the Sunday Million final table, aren't they? Unfortunately, I wish they were deeper, but we'll work with what we've got here. And for me, I guess really playing for the win was on my mind. But of course, keep ICM in mind, and we will see an interesting ICM spot coming up. But for now, let's kick things off with the Ace-10. And yeah, UTG Ace-10, first hand of the Sunday Millions. I actually would have liked to have seen a open there. We've got these sort of kind of tricky asymmetric stack sizes here. We've got some short stacks, big stacks, but I think the configuration of stacks around the table is kind of in our favor. We've got a couple of, well, yeah, a couple of biggest, well, same stack as us and bigger stack to our left. Black Aces has got a pretty big stack. It's a little bit harder for those guys to 3-bet against a UTG Open, especially with shorter stacks behind. The other big stack, Mad Max, who seems like he's a bit of a loose cannon. He is in the small blind, so he'll be out of position. He's probably going to be playing pretty tight from there. And we get good leverage against the big blind, don't we? So I would have preferred to have seen an open there, but no biggie. And classic ICM play there with the small blind jamming on the shorter stack to kick things off. Putting some pressure on early. The 2-9 off, not partaking in the festivities with a hand that trashy, despite being in the big blind. 2-3 folding there. Everything starting out kind of tight, as would be expected. Well, I say that, but sometimes you watch these Sunday Million replays and there's some crazy stuff going on. Yeah, I mean, just folding there, I think, is against the second position open. Interestingly, Daf, who has been playing a little bit unorthodox to this point. We saw him do some massive overjams, and I think it was twice we had pocket nines and he put us in really difficult spots where he just made some pretty crazy all-in jams with a deep stack, which put a lot of pressure on us. And here he does the opposite and just mini 3-bets pre, fires just over half pot on the flop, Black Ace is called, and then shoves a turn. So if I had to guess here, I'd say Black Aces has got something like 8s, 9s, 6s, something like that. He'd be in a pretty tough spot if he had jacks here. I don't know how crazy Daf's going to get in terms of mini 3-betting and then c-betting and then just shoving the turn. But, I mean, I just don't think he's going to get that crazy with Ace-King, Ace-Queen. I'd be pretty surprised if he had that sort of hand, which tends to sway me towards him having big pairs. But Black Aces does just fold. And, yeah, that would have been really tricky if he had a hand like jacks or even nines, I guess, is kind of tough. Queens would be, I guess you'd be going with queens, but it'd be tricky first hand on Sunday Millions. Just because Daf is showing so much strength there by mini 3-betting against an early position raise from the big blind. But he does have that loose cannon factor as well, which that curveball that you have to account for as well when he might just show something a bit crazy. Although having said that, he hasn't shown anything too crazy yet. Speaking of crazy, I have opened here with the 2-5 offsuit. So ace-10 off, not quite good enough from UTG, but 2-5 off from cutoff, loving life with that with that hand. I think, again, this is just because we get to put pretty good pressure. This player on our left, Jeremus G, has pretty much got a jam or fold. Well, I mean, he can call, but he doesn't have too much room to work with. And we've got Svensk in the big blind, who I want to keep pressure on. He's pretty short. But he does jam us. I think that's going to happen a reasonable percentage of the time. That's probably my biggest concern, is that Svensk, who's short, just finds a hand that he can jam with. This time, that's what happened, unfortunately. Not going to call there with the 2-5. Imagine just snapping there with a misclick snap with the 2-5 off there. We saw a debatable misclick, I think it was last part. And hopefully we won't see any more of that. Daff there with the big stack. What a good feeling that would be, wouldn't it? Just having that stack right now at this point in time. Just stacks. Look at this behind, just jams in here. I guess M9-ish, Black Aces 93's got around M9, and this just puts these guys under a ton of pressure. It's not really that big a jam, considering the stack sizes behind. Just good play, I think, here, to be honest. Putting these guys under pressure. No one wants to bust 9th after coming this far. And, of course, ICM dictates that playing smart and trying to move up in pay is a good thing. No loose opens here yet. We're a little bit too early for that. We see a flop here. Black Aces just gives up, interestingly. We see Mad Max putting pressure again, as he loves to do. Ace-9 here. And having said that, I thought Mad Max was going to open there, but it doesn't. We get a walk, which is a pity. I would like to have seen Mad Max open there, but it is worth noting that he did fold the button there. So he had pretty much a perfect situation. Well, I would say the perfect situation to open there, where he can put both the short stacks under pressure. So I think it's pretty interesting to note that he didn't open. So he's not just a crazed pressure machine. He is being a little bit selective with his hands. I would have been opening any 2 in that spot. Demon picks it up there with a jam. Ace-10 off. Folds around. We haven't seen much of Alex Toon yet, but here he is. He pops out a mini. So what do you do with the Ace-10 here? There's about, is it 700k-ish in there pre? So he's got about M7.5. We've got about M9. I am just ripped it. Just go for the rip. I think that's fine. He's probably opening wide enough for this to be quite profitable from the cutoff with us on the button there. And calling, I'm not a huge fan of. Let's put pressure on. We've got a good hand. And I guess we could 3-bet, but it doesn't really give us any room to work with, because then when he jams on us, we're getting crazy odds. We just put ourselves in a really difficult situation. And so let's just keep it clean. He does fold. And every pot is pretty crucial at this point in time, so good to pick up that dead money there. 3-bet and a peculiar call here from Sandal. Yeah, it's looks like he's getting about a quarter of his stack in, out of position against Jeremus, who's been tight. Effective stack is Jeremus's stack of 4.5 million. So almost an SPR of just 1 already on the flop. And it goes check, which is kind of bizarre. So I guess Jeremus could have kings or jacks. I guess once in a while he's got aces or queens and he's just checking back with a set. He certainly would be pretty strong with his 3-betting pre-flop range, I would assume, given the way he's been playing and the fact that Sandals opened from pretty early and been pretty snug as well. And now we see this bizarre, smallish, well, tiny really, 8%, 10, just under 10% pot size bet. And he does the same thing on the river. And what do you think they've got? What has Jeremus got? Who said kings? Not too surprising, is it? I think the call pre-flop by Sandal is, yeah, I mean, it's pretty kooky. And if he is going to play the hand, if he does somehow play this hand and get to the turn, I think he just should shove here. Let's just shove, sorry, on the turn here. Let's just shove. We've got the nut flush draw with a gut shot and a player who could have tens, jacks, or kings who's going to fold. And if he happens to have aces or queens, which there's, I mean, there's three combinations. Well, he does have king, jack, I guess, so he does block some combinations of kings and jacks. But there's, you know, still 6 combos of tens, 3 combos of kings, 3 combos of jacks. So like 12 combos. And if he has aces or queens, that's 3 combos of aces, 3 combos of queens. So he's more likely to have a hand that's folding. And even if you do happen to run into, you know, top set, well, you've still got 9 flush outs and the extra 3 straight outs. So you got 24% equity anyway. And the pot's already pretty big. Let's just go for it. I would have just shoved turn, to be honest. And had he done that, I dare say that Jeremus would not have been able to call with kings without a club. So that would have ended matters. But yeah, a pretty interesting hand there. Pretty close spot here. 7, 8. I wouldn't mind seeing a 3-bet to 1.6. Having said that, Mad Max is not a player who likes to fold. He doesn't enjoy folding to 3-bets. And he has got the chips to play with. So he might be a little bit feel that he might have a little call and then make things difficult for us post-flop potentially. We do have some players behind, still 4 players behind. We do have a short stack in the big blind who we'd commit to, our small blind, if we 3-bet to say 1.6 or so. I think it's close. We don't have a ton of chips either, so it's a fair chunk of our stack if we 3-bet then fold. So pretty tough spot. I don't mind folding it until I see a jack high board, and then I say we should have played it. And then I see an ace turn. And a bet and a call. And wow, we would have been jammed on. And we would have had to fold and we would have lost a bunch of chips. So always good to be results orientated, isn't it? And say, okay, queens. But it is interesting to note the queens there, isn't it? He has been opening a bit, but I'm not convinced. Not convinced that he hasn't actually had hands, because we did see him fold the button before when he should have been opening. So I go ahead and open the ace-5 off here. I think the way the table's been playing, this is a good open. Just trying to pressure these guys. And I think we get pretty good leverage here against Sandal with a c-bet. So let's go for it. We don't have to make it too big. Pop out 700,000. He's only got 4.2 million. So he's already feeling the pinch from that c-bet. And I think unless he's got something pretty good, he's going to be giving it up, and that's exactly what he does, and we get to pick up another pot there. I mean, would have been feeling pretty good here about this time. Jam here, all in from black aces, and a call. Here we go. Big pot. 9.5 million out there. These guys would have been sweating this one. An ace-jack. Well, that is a hand that is going to stick with him, I'd imagine. Remember that time I had ace-jack and called and ace-5 got there? Man, Pokerstars is rigged. But both players there, not too much they could do. Ace-5 on the button, it's definitely going to jam into the short stacks and put pressure. And ace-jack, unfortunate to run into ace-jack, but then unfortunate for the ace-jack to lose there to the ace-5 in such a, well, critical stage of a big tournament. But good game to Demon, and we move on with 8 players. Ace-9 off UTG here, and I like this open. And I think I've really, the ace-10 fold from early now, I think I've really, well, we've done away with any idea of playing tightly. I think now I've realized sort of how the tables, I've got a bit of a feel for the table now. It's generally been pretty tight. So I'm feeling a little bit more comfortable. And I guess that's part of the reason why I folded that ace-10 early, is just to give me a little bit of time to get a feel for the table before we got to whack on the first hand of the Sunday Million final table. So everything going okay so far. We see a jam here from Alex Toon and black aces folding. So short stacks are doing their thing, jamming in when they can. Speaking of that, we see a jam here and a call. We would have had a flush. We got ace king against tens, classic race, and well, the tens hold, and we are going to be down here to 7 players. 7 players, so I think it was approximately 31,000 for the next out, but gunning for that top prize of around 200,000. 3-5 off here. I folded that one into the big stack daff daff. Could go either way with that one, I think. 5-9. Svensk gets a walk. King 10. Time to open. We're in the hijack. We've got Svensk in the small blind who can 3-bet jam. Black aces defends moderately from the big blind. The players behind haven't been too active, Jeremus and Duff Duff, so pretty good spot to open. And bang! The 3-bet jam by Svensk. What do you do? What do you do? There's a bomb in a bus. You're sitting there in the bus with King 10. What do you do? Let's take a bit more of a look at this situation and what's really happening from an ICM point of view here. So Svensk, what I've done here and what I like to do sometimes in a situation like this is just to put the shoe on the other foot, and just for a moment, let's just pretend that we are Svensk here and we're in the small blind facing aces ups, hijack open. If he correctly assigned a range for me that looked something like this, I would probably be raising around 40 to 45% of hands, something like this. And if he knows that, and we do have history and he's seen us fairly active on the final table so far, especially with steals, so he should attack if that's the case. He should be attacking, well, really wide. Have a look at that. I mean, he can punish us for opening so wide and exploit us that way. Having said that, he's never going to be jamming this range. That would be pretty weird. So in reality, he's probably going to be jamming a range. Let's just go back now and say, okay, he should be jamming wide. Just say that we are hero here. And the small blind player has gone all in. He should, I mean, more realistically, he's probably going to be jamming a range that looks like any ace. What do you guys think? Any ace? I think realistically in this spot, he's probably going to be jamming a range that looks more like this. Maybe not even King 9 suited. I think it's reasonable to assume he's going to jam any pair. Something like that, I guess. Maybe even take out Queen 10 suited. You could even maybe take out these 6 here. If he does jam this range, let's just have a look at things. If he jams that range, King 10 is a fold. And it actually costs us a couple $100 here by calling. It is a mistake. And so it's very, as you can see, it's kind of right on the fringe here. King Jack is very profitable. We're making $1,000 every time we call with King Jack, but we're losing a couple of hundred when we call with King 10. And so if we have put him on a kind of roughly correct range, we saw that he should be jamming very wide on us, but he's probably not. But he probably is jamming suited aces and broadways. And any pair, I guess, because of his shortness of his stack and the fact that he can pressure us and he's seen us opening a lot. And he's a good reg, so I do expect him to be, adjusting. So, yeah, that being the case, this should probably be a fold. At the time, I was thinking a couple of things that influenced my decision. I was thinking, well, I don't want to be the player that, hey, aces up just folds to 3 bets and jams, so, he's just stealing wide and we can attack him. And the other thing that I was thinking at the time too is, well, to be honest, I knew it was going to be close, and I just thought it's really, really borderline. We're getting crazy odds because of the shortness of his stack, And I mean, if it was from a chip EV point of view, I mean, insanely, I'm going to go ahead and say insanely profitable if we just look at chip EV for a moment and have a look. We're definitely going to be calling if it's chip EV. So I knew that it was an easy call from a chip EV perspective, but I knew from ICM it would be really borderline. But I didn't want to just keep folding to jams, and I did want to try and play for the win. So I thought it was a little bit gambly. We still had enough chips to work with if we were wrong, if we didn't win the pot. And what was the other thing I was going to say? Oh yeah, importantly, and this is, I think, the mistake of the hand, is that I didn't really correctly factor in the fact that this ICM model is, I'm just going to go back so you guys can see the range there again with chip EV. This ICM model is not perfect, but it doesn't factor in, or the way I've configured it right now is just for the standard sort of payouts from the Sunday Millions. It doesn't factor in the fact that normally 5-ish players, or 4 or 5, sometimes even 6, do a deal. And I'm not sure if I would have done a deal, but it is worth considering that if we get to sort of the top 5, and top 5 players of this tournament do actually do a deal. So that's worth considering as well, because top 5 is kind of a flat pay structure, and so you get rewarded from 6th to 5th is a pretty big reward, because you're going to get a bigger prize payout than you would for 5th. And that being the case, there's a little bit more of a bubble between, say, from 8th, 7th, and 6th to 5th. There's kind of a bigger bubble there. If you're intending to deal, mind you, if you're not intending to deal, then you don't worry about that. But I may have, depending on the stacks. And how I know I was not feeling the best because I was so tired, but at the same time I had sort of some adrenaline from the fact that it was such big, pay jumps, and so I was trying to zone in, but I definitely wasn't feeling my A game. But having said that, I do like our chances with the lineup that we're against. So now that we've discussed this hand in a bit of detail, seen some numbers, and by the way, ICMizer 2 link in the description below for that if you're not using it. I do recommend it. It's a great tool. So we've just seen it give us fairly, well, I would almost say conclusive evidence that we should probably be folding here. But, woohoo! Aces up calls. But it is very close, and I can't say I fault myself too much for calling. I don't hate the call, but I would have preferred I folded. So what I will just do here, just for a bit of excitement, this is not our flop, is it? Oh my lord, what a turn! What a turn! And can you just imagine at this point? Oh, look at that. Can you just imagine that excitement on the turn? That feeling of joy. You see the Queen King and you go, oh my god, I'm dominated. That's a terrible flop. Oh, there's a 10 on the turn. Where did that come from? Short-lived. Flush. See you later, alligator. We were, he had 3 queens and 9 diamonds, 12 outs, times 2 is 24%. We were 76% favorite on the turn, but obviously that's being a bit, turn orientated, because we were dominated and the best hand won. End of story. We are down to 5 million, and we're going to have to get our game face on and try and pull it back from here. So we did take a pretty big hit there. And, yeah, we move on. Folded there. And Svensk, with his newfound wealth, tries to steal, but doesn't get away with it. Mad Max shoves. 5-6, no. Black aces with a steal there. He's been trying to pick his spots on steals, I think. A 3x from UTG. So I'm going to fold there in the big blind. King 5. Mad Max. Is that a limp? That is a limp. And a 4x. And a call. What do they have? The limp call. And now a check. And a check. This is a bizarre hand. We got 4x ISO. And then limp on the flop. Who can figure this one out? And then a bet and a call. and then a bet and a shove. Oh my lord, what is going on here? This is too bizarre. Does Mad Max have a hand like... Is he really limped with a hand like King Jack of Diamonds, limp called, and then decided on the flop that he's going to check back top pair nut flush draw because he thinks Jeremus is 4x'd with a hand like Ace King, and so he doesn't really fear so many turn cards, and he decides to trap? What exactly does he have? Or has Jeremus got Ace King and Mad Max is just limp called with Ace 10 or King Queen suited or something, and they both just kind of give up? Well, just check the flop for safety. But then it goes bet call, so maybe Jeremus has Ace King with the Ace of Diamonds, and maybe Mad Max has a diamond. But then it goes bet shove on the river. So it's just hard to imagine Mad Max bluffing that spot, so maybe he does have the flush. But it is aces with the Ace of Diamonds and jacks with the Jack of Diamonds. So very interestingly, Jeremus flop top set and checks, and aces check back. I don't hate it. Interesting that aces just limped pre and then just called. I'm hating it from my perspective because if jacks had lost, we would have just laddered up nicely and moved into 6th. But unfortunately, the jacks pipped the aces there, which probably could have cost us 25,000, 20,000 or so, but can't be helped. But a very kind of strangely played hand. And I'm not sure I love the jam by Mad Max on the river. I just think the way Jeremus played the hand, it didn't really feel like he had an overpair. So, and I don't think he's going to be calling with a hand like 10s or 9s against a jam like that. So, yeah, I mean, I think it might be a little bit thin, but let me know what you guys think in the comments. I think I would have just I probably would never have played aces like that in the first place, but if I did and I got to the river, I'd probably just call rather than shove. But he did have the Ace of Diamonds, so I guess it's just less chance that Jeremus has a flush. Unless he re-raised 4x the limp pre with a bit of a wide range, like, you know, King Queen of Diamonds or something, but interesting hand. Bit of a bizarre one. 4-5 off. And we see a kind of a very small 3-bet from Mad Max here. So he sort of seems like he limped with the aces. Now, I'm not saying I hate it, but he's just doing a few sort of unorthodox things and then just sharps flop. What do you think he has? Well, are you ready for this? I'm going to bring up the hands as shown in the Sunday Millions replay. This is just a case of, well, just insanity. Just gets you over the line sometimes. Gets a couple of 7s from heaven and just has a wild time, and clearly aptly named Mad Max. But well done, Max. Gets somehow got over the line with just sheer aggression this time. Could be a bit of a loose cannon that we might have to watch out for. Black aces with a nice, I was going to say steal from UTG, but I mean, we don't know what he had. Mad Max now sort of confidence is back, raising, mixing things up. 7-8 from UTG, fold, and Mad Max jams on Alex Toon again. Poor old Alex getting jammed on a bit there. Oh, here we go. Mad Max opens on the button. Now, interestingly, we said not too long ago that he did actually fold the button when he should have been opening. He does open this time. So his range is not 100%. So he did fold the button before. So, but having said that, we've seen him be pretty active, but also show a lot of hands. So it's a little bit hard to gauge, but I don't think there's too much thinking to do here. We've got M4. We've got a little bit of fold equity. He does seem like a loose cannon. I think he might call a bit wide. You know, some people even call wide enough to have like King 10 here. Us. But yeah, I think definitely jamming is the play. And that was a little bit similar to the King 10, funnily enough. the stack size. I think we've just got a few more chips than Svensk had. And Mad Max has got a few more chips, so could potentially take a hit and call for an extra 3.1 mil and not be too stressed if he loses the pot. So I think if I was Mad Max, I'd be more inclined to call, like the situation before if I had King 10. Having said that, I think we're just a touch deeper because we have 6, 7, 8, 9. We have M4.5, whereas Svensk had, I think, M3.5, so we are a little bit deeper. So I would actually fold King 10 in that spot, I guess, but it's a little bit similar. But he does fold, and we get to pick up, look at those beautiful chips there, 2 million. Speaking of beautiful, have a look at this Ace-King. When you have M5.5 and you get Ace-King, you are pretty happy. And look at this action. Let's just jam it. We've got another one of those mini 3-bets from Mad Max. Virtually a mini. It's just like double the open. And look at this. I mean, this is such a glorious spot. The clouds have just parted ways. The sun's shining. We've got Mad Max, who we've seen do this quite a bit. And I wouldn't be surprised if he folded, to be honest. Even though he's getting ridiculous pot odds here. Once black aces, we get past black aces, he folds. He's been opening a fair bit, so that's not surprising. And Mad Max now only has to call 3.6 million. And so he's getting crazy pot odds. I guess there is a little bit of ICM pressure, though. It is sort of approaching half his stack. But he folds. Fist pump. That's actually still a good result because there's a lot of dead money in there. And we pop back up like a daisy to 8.5 million, and it's back to game on. Let's do this. Final table of the Pokerstars Sunday Million. It's been an epic run, and I'm glad you could join me for this. And I'd really appreciate it if you would be kind enough to like and subscribe, and then I'll be sure to keep the videos coming. For now, we've got the final part of the Sunday Million coming right up. More interesting hands, the stakes are high, big payouts looming. Join me again. This has been Aces Up for PokerNerve.com.